Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 170 of the Seezus Show. We're back with another fun-filled episode. Hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode, which was episode 169, where Carl Conyers and myself discussed the NFL divisional round playoff preview, Trey Young's major trade going to the Washington Wizards, and much, much more. Make sure to continue to subscribe, like, share, do all you got to do to spread everything, you know what I'm saying? And, NFL season's kind of coming to an end, man. But we still got two solid weeks left of football, so we're gonna see who's gonna finish on top. But before we get into today's hottest topics, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my boy, for the legend, for Detroit's finest, Carl Conyers.
What's good, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good, man. It was good to get back together with the squad yesterday. So that felt good. Some good food, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, uh, what were your thoughts on that Miami championship game?
Um, I mean, it ended up being a good game. I'll say that. Like it kind of seemed like for a while people couldn't really score, but second half of the game ended up being pretty good. And it is crazy that Indiana, this coach just took them from, not really doing anything to a national championship in a perfect season. So, and they don't have, I think they don't have any five-star recruits on their team, which is like insane. So really dope. Ended up being a good game. And I will say this, I do not, and I'd be happy to be wrong, but I don't see I get why Fernando Mendoza is going to be drafted high because there's not any other good quarterbacks coming out, but I don't see why I would want him as my potential franchise quarterback.
Yeah, there's nothing that like kind of I because obviously if he was like him, people who don't even like people who casually watch would be tuning in and be locked in. But I haven't seen anything from the eye test to make it seem like you said he's a top pick. But who knows? You know, maybe if he gets drafted to a team, they're willing to invest in him, maybe a backup, and could have some success and eventually start. But like you said, like even right now, like with all these teams in the NFL that are going through a lot of different coaching changes and trying to figure out who's going to be their quarterback of the future, I low key wait till the season after and roll what you got.
Yeah, I mean, if I had that, I think the Raiders have the number one. I would trade that for a bunch of, do one of those like trade the number one for a bunch of stuff for a big haul because this just doesn't feel like the year to go all in on this guy as your quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Um, so the divisional round, just kind of wrapped up as well too. Uh, for the most part, we had some interesting games, but Broncos beat the Bills in overtime, 33-30. Seahawks smacked the 49ers 41-6. Patriots took care of business at home. And they beat the Texans 28-16, and the Rams won in overtime 2017. So we had two overtime games, a defensive masterclass, and a offensive collapse from the Texans quarterback. But Carl Conyers, what were your biggest takeaways of the divisional round playoffs?
I think well, the Josh Allen is always going to be big. In terms of him, firing McDermott and just the game that Josh Allen played. Like the fumble before the half was insane. Completely no reason for it. I get that, Superman, you got to do a lot, but there's definitely, of course, always doing too much. And there was like, I think maybe less than 30 seconds. You don't have any timeouts. You're trying to go the whole length of the field. It just didn't make sense to do something dumb. I get being aggressive, trying to go for it, but and because I've seen some people try and pin that somehow on the coach, and I'm like, I mean, I guess he called the play, but he didn't tell Josh Allen to go and throw the ball in the air and do, a bunch of crazy stuff. So, um, I was surprised at how he played. I really was. And again, knowing that the way that things have looked in the past couple of years, this seems like this was his shot. Like
Yeah.
all the guys that keep beating you or all the direct, really good competition. Like he's demonstrably better than everybody but Stafford. And I think he's better than Stafford. I just don't think he's like demonstrably better than Stafford. But
Yeah.
all these quarterbacks left, like he was clearly the best one, and it still just didn't really matter. Of course, it's a team sport as well, but I think they win that game. I mean, it went to overtime, so I think they win that game if he has two less turnovers.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's tough, and it's even more tough now because the Broncos kind of look like they're probably not going to make it past this next round because their quarterback breaks his ankle at the very end of that game. So,
That's crazy.
um, yeah, that's a really big takeaway for me too. Is like I was excited to see the Broncos on the next stage, and now
Yeah.
it just kind of derailed their entire season at one of the most critical points, which is tragic, especially when the NFL. It's as we see with this year's playoffs. There's no guarantee that you're going to make it here again next year. Um, that's tough, but I think for me the biggest thing is CJ Stroud, like coming
Mm.
out of this weekend. I know me and you were talking about it. I don't think a year ago, definitely not 2 years ago, but even a year ago, nobody would have been like, hey, I would have rather had Sam Darnold quarterbacking this Texans team than CJ Stroud. I think Sam Darnold would have got this win because I don't think Sam Darnold would have turned the ball over 80 times in two playoff games. He looked shook, he looked shell-shocked. There's just no, hiding it, no doubt about it. It wasn't like, and I saw an analyst kind of compare it to Trevor Lawrence when he had his playoff debut. He threw those three first half picks, but then, came back and won the game. But even when he was playing like shit, throwing three picks in the first half, he was mad, but he wasn't like, I look like a sad puppy or something like that, and I think that's just a huge difference. And when you start looking sad and down on yourself like that as an athlete, especially as a quarterback, it's usually over at least for
Yeah.
like that game. I don't, we'll see afterwards, but yeah, it was sad, honestly, to see him have the rookie year that he had, and it just feels like he's still just chasing that success and hasn't come anywhere close. It'd be one thing if you were like, okay, you know, you might not average those numbers again, but at least if you were come close to it or anything like that, and he just hasn't. Um, and so I'm very interested to see what the next year or two holds for CJ because if he, has another average year or, something like this, I think it's very much on the board that he could be out of a job or at least out of Houston. He might find a job somewhere else. But just a really stunning fall for a guy who hasn't dealt with any big injuries or anything like that. Um, and just letting that defense, I mean, that's the best defense I've seen and maybe 7, 8 years or something like that. Like it was insane. The fact that they were even still in that game, the fact that it was a 12-point game with all the things that CJ Stroud did, is just a testament to how insane it is. So it sucks seeing, it is you got to play both sides of the ball and they didn't get anything from their offense. So I feel bad for them, but yeah, that I'm very interested to see what's going to happen in this next year or so of CJ's career.
Yeah, bro. I don't know. Yeah, I shit. Cause you can't. Cause has he? I don't think he's gotten paid yet, right? He's still in his rookie contract deal, right?
I think so.
So if you're still in your rookie contract deal, one, you're gonna fuck up the bag. Two, you may be a backup for the rest of your career. So for them to essentially know they have a small window before they have to decide to move on from you or pay you, and they're investing all these resources because it's not like you're deprived of weapons on an offensive standpoint. Granted, there was injury. The injuries are a part of the game, especially in that game as well too. But it's like your defense, like you said, like as bad as you played, you guys had so many chances. All you had to do was play a clean game. You know what I'm saying, and try to get at least 3 points on the field every possession. But he couldn't even take care of that. Like you said, he looked mentally shot, and like you said, when you're mentally cooked, nothing is going to go your way. So shout out to Drake May doing what he was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Bouncing back from last week to this week. And, didn't necessarily start off the best, but he took care of business. So I got to show him some love. And to see the Patriots just kind of have a turnaround from winning 4 games, I believe, last year to having the chance to, not only get the number 1 seed, but win their division. And now they're representing, we're going, or soon to be, who knows, but it's looking like they're going to represent the AFC when it's all said and done. I gotta give flowers to them and to Mike Vrabel for really turning that team around to what we kind of grew up being used to. You know what I'm saying? So I think they can definitely continue this level of success. Bo Nix, man, like you said, it's kind of sad to see because I'm actually, even from I saw him a little bit in Oregon, and followed him, especially last year. He kind of put me on notice. I was like, all right, this guy's kind of good. He's going with the legendary Sean Payton, and Sean Payton had him ready. They were the number one pass defense. Obviously, we turned he turned the ball over once against us, and we kind of strapped him up for the most part of third quarter and a little bit of fourth. But then when he needed to make the throws, he did, and Josh didn't. So, like you said, like I'm happy for him and Sean Payne to kind of take care of business, but it's like, damn, y'all sacrificed all that. So now we got to see Jared Stidham go up against the New England Patriots in Foxborough, or it's going to be even colder. And he hasn't really got that many reps, so it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And I forgot Stidham was a backup a little bit for New England, obviously. Completely different team, but I still believe at least the offensive coordinator was still there. So that's going to be interesting to see how all that pans out. Got to show love, outside of you even saying like the Texans defense looks elite, the Seahawks defense looks very elite as well too. Obviously, they say you're only as strong as your weakest soldier, but damn, a lot of soldiers was gone for the 49ers. So you definitely need to be healthy or as healthy as you can be going into the playoffs. But shout out to the 49ers to win these amount of games and still be in the playoffs and still have a chance to compete for even the number one seed. So next year, I think they're gonna continue what they've done. That's a great organization as well too. And like you said, man, Caleb Williams, man, I wanna give a little bit of love to Caleb Williams. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. He definitely has that clutch gene. Like I told you, he can be inaccurate as a motherfucker. And then for some reason, when when that signal, that bat signal come out, he performs. Obviously, ended on him, turning the ball over. It looks like him and his wide receiver had miscommunication, but that's going to come with time. So I think he can definitely, continue to progress, develop more pocket awareness, be a little bit more accurate, and get to a point where he can kind of read defenses. So I like what the Bears doing, and I think them with your team, Detroit Lions, that division in general is gonna definitely be a good division, competing with one another for that divisional spot as well too. And then yeah, man, upset as a Bills fan, heartbroken, heartbroken. Like you said, at the end of the day, you got to put most of the blame on Josh Allen. And like you said, it's so shocking because you've talked about this at least from like the regular season standpoint, where you get the Josh Allen experience, where he can kind of have this mindset that he has to do it all, and then he can turn the ball over, whether it's an interception or a fumble, but he has the chance to kind of overcome it. And the thing is, in the playoffs, he plays like Superman and plays a clean game. Like they're showing all these stats these past 2 weeks. He's the first quarterback to do this, first quarterback to do that. He's ranked this, ranked that. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like if anything, our defense is gonna let us down or something else is gonna happen. But he was the person to blame. 4 turnovers, like you said, like knowing that moments like this come so like very often. It's just like you gotta take care of the football. You know what I'm saying? So that fumble, like you said, like you can blame coaching as well too, because I in my head I'm like, yo, these niggas gonna need a ball, and I was like, oh, like where are you going? And then he starts running in real time, like, all right, Josh doing Josh thing, maybe trying to get a field goal or some shit like that. But even how he was running the ball and wailing and shit, I was like, nigga, what are you doing? Slot, do something.
That's
So
insane.
that kind of blew me. Going down 7 to now going down 10 to 2 possessions. He missed Dawson Knox where he could have essentially ended the game, and we, had the field goal to go to overtime as well too. James Cook fumbled the ball, and the thing is like one of the things that we kind of get they talk about a lot is like the defense always lets them down, but even though they technically let them down when it was all said and done, when it was overtime, we deferred. They got ball first, got a 3 and out. Now it's like, all right, bro, like this is what we paid you for. This is why we think that most of us can kind of come to a conclusion, at least in the playoffs itself. Or right now, you're the best quarterback. So, um, we shouldn't even be talking about was it a fumble? Was it interception? Was it not? This and this and this and that? Because like you said earlier, if you play a clean game, we shouldn't even get to this position in general. So now, Sean McDermott had to pay the ultimate price and be the fall guy. But it is what it is. There's always next year, but next year, those people we said who ain't gonna be there. So it's gonna be much harder. You know what I'm saying? So time waits for no man. But overall, solid. Divisional round, and hopefully, I know NFC side gonna be solid. We're gonna talk about this a little later. NFC side gonna be solid, but hopefully AFC game is somewhat respectable. We'll see. Um,
We will see.
we'll see. Last top QB list of the season, man. Top four QB list. I'm pretty sure we got the same order, but let me know your top four QB list going into the divisional round of the playoffs.
So at 4, and honestly, if I had the opportunity, I would put him at 34. But is Jared Stidham. Um, his he only has like 4 starts or something in his career too. Like he doesn't play. Part of that, of course, is I guess his teams have been lucky that clearly the quarterbacks are usually healthy that where he's backing up. Um, but it's never even been a situation where it was like maybe we'd be better off throwing him in there. Like, nah. So he's 4. Then I have Darnold at 3, then May at 2, and Stafford at 1.
Yeah, same. Jared Stidham four, by default. It should be Donald at four and Bo Nix at least at three, but I'm so sorry, Bo Nix. Cause like you said, that the way that the Broncos was locked in, I'm like, yo, at least Bo Nix may have a pick or whatever, but he ain't gonna play like CJ Stroud, and he has a defense that can back it up, and he's mobile too. So that was gonna be a good game. But for Jared Stidham, journeyman to an extent, doesn't even have a 60% completion percentage for the time that he's been thrown in or has started, and he has a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. We'll see what happens. 3, Sam Darnold played a clean game and game managed. And sometimes when you have so much talent around you, especially on the defensive end, that's all you got to do. So I'm proud of him. And number 2, like you said, Drake May bounced back from the Chargers performance, had early woes against the Texans, but when his name was called upon, he delivered. And then number 1, Matthew Stafford hasn't had the gaudy numbers from individual games that we've kind of seen through the regular season, but the reason why he's most likely going to be MVP, when it matters most, he go down the field and he take care of business. And I expect him to kind of take care of business. We'll see what happens with that. But before we get into the divisional playoff, the AFC and NFC Championship games, let's talk about a few firings and hirings, man. Sean McDermott, like we talked about slightly a little bit, got fired as the Bills head coach. As a fan itself, I'd say I'm pretty sad, but I understand change is inevitable. Our team owner Terry Pagula cited that we need a new structure within our leadership to help teams reach the next level and finally make a Super Bowl appearance, which kind of sounds kind of crazy because if you need change, don't necessarily make him the fall guy. I'd also fire the GM as well too, but our GM Brandon Beam has been promoted to being the president of football operations and general manager, so he's now going to oversee the coaching staff and lead the search for McDermott's replacement. But got to give my flowers to McDermott. The Bills were kind of a laughing stock outside, like the '90s, and obviously they folded. But as far as winning records, playoff success, and all that good stuff, he really turned that franchise, that organization around. Had to me, successful 9-year tenure, 98-50 regular season record, 8 straight playoff appearances, 5 consecutive AFC East titles. But he was never able to get to the Super Bowl. 8-8 in the playoffs. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons as well too. Who knows? Maybe if Josh plays better, maybe if the defense holds up, maybe if all these things go a different way, it's a different story. But at the end of the day, the NFL is results driven, and they think that they have the top 2, top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and the time is now. So I understand. Um, it's crazy because from an eye test, I've talked about it as a fan from an eye test. you and others have talked about it, how we're a flawed team, but because we have one of the best players, we can kind of we kind of get blinded by it sometimes as well too. I can't remember the stat, but even when I was watching the game, unless he was passing to his tight end or Khalil Shakir, I think Josh was like 5 of 14 to the other receivers. And then even in a crucial moment with I forgot his first name, but he was on the Chiefs for a little bit. I think his last name's Hardy. He caught the first touchdown.
Nicole Hardman.
And yeah, Hardman, I'm sorry. He caught the first touchdown. I was excited. And then in overtime, when you need a vital first down to advance the chains, he just drops the ball on the left side of the field. And I'm just like, damn. And what was funny about that stat was we signed him, I think, middle of the season. That was his second pass thrown to him, second attempt. And I'm just like, damn, nigga. But yeah, McDermott pointed out that our team's roster, we had team's rosters deficiencies, and I guess it didn't sit well with the front office, which is crazy. So that's another thing that may have potentially contributed to the decision as well too. He's a great coach. I like him, like I saying, like I don't think he's the type of guy who necessarily has to go to a ready-made situation. I think he can wait because he's proven that he can help take an organization from basically ground zero all the way up as well too. So whoever gets him is going to be lucky, and he's definitely going to turn some things around. But uh, I was definitely shocked. I thought that if anything, we needed to, like I said, get rid of the GM and just make little moves to kind of get over the hump. But you had chances, and like we said, it's results driven. So the show must go on. But wherever he goes, I'm rooting for him from afar. What are your thoughts on all that?
No, I mean, I think it's tough because sometimes you can't get your coach fired, as a star quarterback. And I think that's also a part of this is Josh not coming through in certain moments. And at the end of the day, of course, we're going to pick the quarterback over the coach. And if and of course, Josh already does a lot, so I'm not trying to put this all on his feet.
Yeah,
But it's like also if he does manage to win some of these games or not have some of these mistakes and they do advance further, I think he's still a coach there. But I also think it's tough because, as you mentioned, like there are a lot of roster deficiencies. Granted, you guys had some injuries at wide receiver, but even before that, it's not like your wide receiver room was that great at all. Um, Running back, of course, really, yeah, probably one of the best running backs in the league this year.
yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of things with that team that need to be fixed. And anytime a team just keeps, knocking on the door, getting really close, and they can't get over the hump, something has to change,
Yeah,
regardless of
yeah.
whose fault it is and regardless of all that stuff. So it, I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, oh, okay, at least I can
Mm.
understand this. Um, so yeah, it sucks. I think he's gonna probably there's like I think 8 or even more head coaching positions open. So I think he'll probably get a job this cycle if he wants one.
Hmm.
I'm more interested in seeing who's gonna fill this position now. I do think that uh I wonder what Harbaugh is thinking right now because he signed with the Giants really quick before. I don't think
Facts.
anybody, knew or felt like Sean McDermott was going to get fired. So that's just, I wonder if he's like, dang, I would have much rather gone and coached Josh Allen than Jackson Dart in New York. But um, yeah, so I'm very interested to see who's going to take over that position, see what the team looks like next year, how that's going to change things stylistically. But it is also interesting that, promoting being in the draft has been a disaster for you guys the past couple of years. Um,
I think since Josh Allen got drafted, they said we've only had two Pro Bowlers outside of him. And I think it was Dawson Knox and then James Cook. Those are the only two. So out of 50 some motherfuckers we drafted, that's it. Um, so that was a stat that I was like, damn, this is kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah, really nuts. I mean, I will say I do think that Ed Oliver, he might not have gone to a Pro Bowl, I guess, but he's really good. I think he's really, really good. So there's some like guys, they've gotten that might not be Pro Bowl level, but it's still just not enough. Like yeah, drafting has to be better. A lot of things have to be better, especially even like free agent signings and other things like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I think we definitely gotta. We definitely got to find a wide receiver. I think we should try to draft a wide receiver. I gotta look at like the players that are declaring to go to the draft from the skill position standpoint. But I think we definitely got to draft a wide receiver, and then trade for a wide receiver, and then kind of get better at the edge. But like I said, there's so many different things that are kind of flawed. But I think the biggest thing is kind of to take away, get better on the outside from an offensive standpoint. I mean, 17 games can kind of be hit or miss with stats as well too. They did say that we were the number one pass defense. So yeah, I'll get a little better at the edge rush, and we'll take it from there. So we'll see. I mean, we've been competitive the last couple of years, and we were this close. So I think a couple tinkers can be taken care of. But I'm curious to see who we get as well too. Something's telling me, I was like, all right, obviously we got rid of Sean, but we kept our GM and promoted him. So I'm thinking like I wouldn't be surprised a couple days to a week from now when we record next time. Um, that, for example, like our offensive coordinator Joe Brady becomes head coach or something like that. Something's telling me that's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna keep my ears and my eyes on social media, on all these different outlets to see who we utilize as well too. So
Okay.
yeah, change gonna be interesting, especially in that new stadium. I can't wait to see how everything pans out. But another coach officially got a job as well too. John Harbaugh, who we just talked about, officially got introduced to be the coach today for the New York Giants. He signed a 5-year contract with the team, like we said before, after spending 18 seasons as a head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, the rehash brings a wealth of experience, 12 playoff berths, and a Super Bowl victory. So I feel like, Giants ownership hopes, he can turn around the franchise with the recent struggles. So that's going to be interesting as well, too. They also said in the change from the team's traditional structure, both Harbaugh and the GM will report directly to ownership. So that's going to give Harbaugh significant input on personnel decisions, which is something that I think these other coaches who are kind of getting fired are going to kind of have somewhat of a role where they can kind of make decisions as well too. But got introduced, expressed a desire for the job, and laid out his mission, which is to become to earn the right to be called the world champions in New York, and quarterback development. So a key factor in his decision was the presence of second-year quarterback Jackson Darts. He thinks he has a lot of potential and is a dual threat. So he's excited to work with him and develop. So yeah, man, that's another division that's going to be pretty interesting. But what are your thoughts on this signing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of just rehashed a little bit of what I said. I think that it's interesting, he signed really quick. I do really wonder if he would have wanted this, Bills coaching job instead. But still in New York, funny enough. And it's the Giants, so they have like this historical thing behind them. And Jackson Dart he looks good enough for a rookie. I'll say that for sure. He looks like he
Yeah,
could be good going forward. Especially just having that blend of being able to run and be a pretty good passer. So
got to teach that nigga how to slide.
yeah, exactly. Um, but I I actually kind of don't like him going there because it's just the Giants. I really don't. And it's crazy because I'm coming from a franchise that just turned things around in the
Yeah.
Lions, but sometimes I think certain franchises I just don't see the path forward to them
Mm.
really being contenders. Like even for instance, like the year that they were decent or good with Daniel Jones, I'm still like, okay, whatever, and I feel like that might be the type of contention they're going towards of like, okay, you might win 10 games, but do I really take you seriously? So for them though, I mean it's a great ad. Harbaugh's a championship level coach. I think everyone knows he's a good coach. And he did good with a young Lamar and a young Flacco as well. So I think at least in terms of developing Jackson Dart, it's a good hire.
Yeah, man. Scatterboo gonna be back. Neighbors gonna be back. They're gonna have a decent draft pick, and the fact that he has a good percentage of influence on player personnel, we know he's a defensive-minded coach. Um, we'll see. Sometimes in the NFL, I mean, shit, we saw the fucking Patriots have won 4 games last year and the potential go to the Super Bowl next year, so anything can kind of happen. But
Uh,
yeah, happy for him, and I'm excited to see Jackson Dart's next at least 2 years to see if he's on the trajectory in which I think he can be. So that's going to be interesting. And then they love his mobile quarterbacks. Oh, another signing, Stefanski. Oh, his name was in the sports room, in the NFL room every damn week. But signed a 5-year contract with Atlanta. Obviously, Matt Ryan is the new president of football operations. So definitely hired him and will be reporting directly to him as well too. He's expected to retain a defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich and may bring on Tommy Rees, an offensive coordinator. He is already reunited with former Browns offensive line coach Bill Callahan, who will join his staff in Atlanta. What are your thoughts on taking this job with the Atlanta Falcons?
I mean, I think it's definitely interesting
And
because,
already got a quarterback who hurt again.
yeah, I don't know what, because who's the guy they signed as a free agent?
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, sorry. So like Kirk is going to be their quarterback for at least most of the next season for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
they won
but
eight
they have
games last
weapons. They
year.
have weapons over there and some pieces on defense too. So I don't hate it. I think it's a decently enticing spot. Kirk isn't. He's an above replacement level quarterback, so I think that you can get some things done with him still. And it's a place where a guy like who's one coach of the year, I think it makes sense for him to go to kind of also bolster like, all right, I can make these guys a certain level respectable as well. So I think it's a good hire for them. He's been a pretty good coach for the most part, with worse quarterbacks. So I am interested to see how that works out as well.
Facts, and now you can just coach and build and not have to worry about all that extra stuff, especially from a not only a historically shitty organization, but dealing with the polarizing an athlete on that team as well too. So it's good for a fresh start. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, this year they had some highs, had some lows, won some games against some teams who they weren't supposed to win, ended up being 8 and 9. So we'll see, how things get turned around next year as well too. All right, man. The AFC Championship game, Carl Conyers. Broncos are hosting the Patriots in New England. Who you got?
Patriots, for sure.
Yeah, Broncos have a great defense, right? So like I said, we only have a small sample size from Jared Stidham. So it's gonna have to be a Jared Stidham, Sam Donald as a game manager. Play as a game manager. Don't be like CJ. Avoid turning the ball over, and let's make sure you guys establish the run. Because if you establish a run, you take some pressure off of him, and you can control that clock, and let the defense kind of control the game as well too. And do not turn the ball over. And I think the Denver Broncos need to force turnovers. Um, I feel like every team that the Patriots have played against so far this year in the playoffs, they've been able to force the offense to turn the ball over. So I see a situation where they can possibly force turnovers 1 or 2 times. Hopefully, you can get in some good short fields and see what happens with that. But overall, I think the Bo Nix injury was such a huge blow, and I don't think it'll be enough to kind of overcome, the New England Patriots, who are the hottest toy, hottest car in town right now. So it's also in Foxborough. I got the Patriots probably winning by 10 points
Okay.
because all the Patriots got to do protect the football. Low key, the way they was pressuring Stidham and Herbert, pressure that motherfucker too. And like you said, you're at home, so you got house money. You know what I'm saying? You got house money. So I don't think the pressure is gonna get to Drake. He may start off a little nervous, but like I said, he finds a way to eventually settle in and take care of business. So I think Mike Vrabel's gonna have a great game plan for Stidham. And yeah, like I said, I think they're gonna be victorious. NFC Championship. The Rams are going into Seattle. Obviously, the season they had a season split 1-1. It seems like Stafford has, played relatively well against this team in the wins and losses as well too. So I feel like, the Rams offensive line against the Seahawks pass rush. That's going to be something that's interesting. They're gonna have to find a way to slow down Puka Nacua. Because I think there was one week. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you gave Puka Nacua. I think you may have gave Puka Nacua player of the week, even though they lost that game when he had like 12 catches for like over 200 yards or some shit like that and
Yeah,
two
for sure.
touchdowns. So they're gonna have to find a way to slow him down. I don't know how they're gonna do that, but obviously you're gonna have to put Witherspoon, maybe shadow him or implement consistent double teams. But then you got to worry about Devontae Adams as well too. So they've proven like as great as the Seahawks defense is, Matthew Stafford in that offense has more than enough to, uh, you know, put some pressure on Sam Darnold as well too. So I think obviously it's the playoffs and it's the third go around. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be a quote unquote shootout, but I definitely see a situation where it may go down to the wire. So the Seahawks going to have to find a way to pressure Matt Stafford, who isn't as mobile as he used to be, and not really known for being mobile like that. So if Stafford has a clean, if they can keep if the offensive line can keep the pocket clean, man, I think they can take care of work in Seattle. So this is gonna be an interesting one for Sam Darnold. All eyes on you, brother. I wouldn't say there's really much. I don't think there's much pressure. I mean, they're the number one seed, but I really feel like being an MVP and having a season that Matthew Stafford's had, and how a lot of people, especially I feel like middle of the season going in towards the end of the season from the NFC standpoint, have kind of been anointing the Rams to get this far. I think all the pressure on them, even with them on the road. But I got a 24-17, 24-20 type of win from the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I'm taking the Rams in this one too. Um, I mean, the Seahawks are good. They're clearly good. They're here. But I think I'm just still apprehensive to believe in them fully. And Stafford is having a really good year. He has the weapons. I think that he'll definitely play a lot better than
Previous two
this
games.
49ers team they just faced.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which I think was just overmatched. I don't even blame the 49ers. They, like you kind of said as well, they were happy to make it as far as they did and win as many games as they did. When you look at we're so used to the past several years, them having like the Avengers out there and Kittle and McCaffrey and Ayuk and Debo, and they literally just had McCaffrey. Like nobody else is good out there for them right now on offense. So I wasn't surprised that it went the way it went.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I feel so bad for Matthew Stafford because he got on a good team with some good weapons and good defense and has been good every single year. Like I think they had like one down year and he was kind of like injured or whatever, but he's been there for like 5 years or something like this, and this might be they're almost gonna go to the Super Bowl a second time already. And it's crazy because Stafford on this Lions team would be amazing, but this Lions team wouldn't exist without
Yeah,
the stuff
without
that we
him.
got for trading him away. So it's one of
Yeah.
those, like catch 22 type things. It really sucks, but yeah, I feel bad that it took him so long to be able to be in this type of situation, and he's finally really getting to show like, yo, I was slinging the rock in Detroit. They just wasn't, consistently putting the pieces around me. But I'm gonna definitely go with them in this one. Just a lot more faith in that offense and that team in general. They have the pedigree for it. I think that you know, we both had Darnold 3 on our list, and if it wasn't for Stidham, he probably would have been 4.
Yeah.
He could still have a good game, but I think that if I'm going to bet on either of these quarterbacks fucking the game up, it's going to be him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So we're gonna see what Sam Darnold about. Maybe that defense hold up and he don't really gotta do shit. Because I think against granted, like you said, two different teams. One team was injury ridden, but it kind of reminds me of last weekend or this past weekend where Jimmy Garoppolo won the NFC Championship game. I think they played the Packers. I can't remember, but he only threw the ball like 10 times or some shit like that. This nigga only threw the ball 15, like 14, 15 times last week. So who knows? Maybe he ain't gonna be called upon, but knowing the Rams, like you said, like you're gonna have to put up some points as well too. So yeah, I'm excited to see that game. Both games are on Sunday, back to back. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. Move it over to the NBA. Carl Conyers outside of our topics. Any big takeaways from the last time you had takeaways?
I think still kind of, we have the trade deadline coming up, so that is something that I'm still heavily keeping my eye on. We have some new reports that have been coming out. One from Giannis, he seems to keep reiterating that he wants to stay in Milwaukee. So, uh, the front office could always decide we don't care what you think and still trade him away if there's some great package. But if any type of trade goes down in Milwaukee, I feel like at this point it's more likely that they're bringing someone on. I don't know what exactly they can do though. They're really strapped. I think the whole waving Dame and Miles Turner thing was insane, but yeah, so that's very interesting, something I want to keep an eye on. And the other thing is the report came out today that Josh said he wants to stay in Memphis. So it seemed like, I think a week or so ago, the reports came out saying that they were open to trading him, and it felt like all indications were that was going to happen, considering how things have gone between the two sides in the past several years, and this season especially. But he just, and there, I think there was also, they were just overseas playing Orlando, and there were some videos that came out of him kind of talking crazy to one of his teammates, but reports are now that he wants to stay there. He's saying I'm a loyal guy, and so there's just another interesting wrinkle in that. Of course, they still might decide to trade him, but having him publicly come out and say like, "No, I want to stay here," is something I don't think that I don't think we were going to see. So just kind of like two of the biggest trade pieces seems like they're reaffirming their commitment to the team they're on. So I don't know what the ramifications that is going to have on the rest of this trade market. And then our next topic, I think, is something that could potentially have the biggest ramifications on this trade market.
Mm, yeah. As far as my takeaways before we get into that, Jalen Green's back. I think he only played 2 games and suffered a crazy hamstring injury. I feel like the Phoenix Suns to kind of put together this team post trading KD and getting rid of everybody during that finals run have put themselves in positions to be at least a above 500 playoff looking team. Right now they're 27-17, so I'm sure with him coming back into the fold that only bolsters their roster. I think Steven Adams at first, when there's a video that came out, he like fell hard to the ground. I thought he messed up his knee, and obviously post OKC he's been battling a lot of injuries as well too. But it just turns out it's an ankle injury, so he should be back soon. Um, Seems like once CP3 got relieved of his duties, the Clippers just started actually giving a fucking playing winning basketball. So to see Kawhi and James Harden kind of turn back the clock and Ty Lue getting his coaching bags from them being damn near the last seed to being a playing team at the 10th seed right now. That's pretty interesting. So I'm curious to see how things kind of pan out as the season progresses, or at least by All Star break as well too. Um, J Dub actually went out as well too. I think he tweaked his hamstring, so he got a hamstring strain. So yeah, another star or co-star to kind of go out as well too. But it's kind of funny because the nigga missed 19 games, and without him, they were 18-1,
They
and
were
with
better
him,
without him.
they're better without him. You know what I'm saying? So I can, in saying that, I expect them to continue to rock and roll as well too. And I think they're going to hold on to that number one seed because right now they're 6 games ahead of the Spurs for the number one seed. So I think Shea gonna get in his bag, and there's a reason why they have a bevy of talent. You can plug and play and get those wins. And the last thing, probably Edgecombe, stay rocking the rim all the time with these dunks, but another player who's can looks like a potential rising star. We trying to get him to be in a dunk contest, and he doesn't want to do it. So I feel like that's also a bigger issue. I feel like players like a LeBron James from back in the day, like kind of set that standard where it's like, oh, I'm not gonna kind of take this serious anymore. So it kind of starts from the top down. If you ain't gonna take it serious, then why would the generation after and after want to take it serious as well too? So kind of like what you've been saying the past couple of years, just go away with certain events in the All Star game, and make us truly care, or just try to find a way to kind of restructure it. So obviously the All Star game about to come over in LA in a little bit, but I know for a fact I really don't care for it. So if they don't care for it, why should we not care for it? But that's my final spiel. So injuries, man. Jimmy Butler suffered an ACL injury. So it was a torn right ACL during yesterday's game against the Miami Heat. Funny, against the Miami Heat, right? He's going to miss the obviously remainder of the 25-26 season, and he's expected to undergo surgery at a future date as well too. So, yeah, he landed awkwardly on his right leg while going for a pass in the paint, and immediately fell, to the court in pain and was unable to put any weight on the leg as he was helped off to the locker room. And yeah, this is his third significant injury to the same right knee. So, kind of pretty much just kind of caved. Well, what I'm trying to say, pretty much is done. So yeah, he tore his meniscus in 2018, I believe, when he was on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I think he got some snipped off or something like that. Then came back, and then that's when they made the playoffs. And he had an MCL sprain in 2024 with the Miami Heat as well too. And obviously he's 36 years old. So just by the nature of that injury and his age as well too, I think this is it. And when I say this is it, I'm talking about being a starting caliber player. Obviously he can probably play as long as his body will hold up, but I think it's going to be one of those situations where he definitely gives 6 through 8 men on a roster spot as well too. So happy he got his last little paycheck, I believe, when he got his little mini extension when he went to Golden State Warriors. It's always nice to have a security blanket. But yeah, man, he was playing at somewhat of an all-star level. The Warriors were winning. I think they won 12 of the last 16 games. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough blow. It's gonna be a tough blow. But yeah, what were your 2 cents on all that and the trades and all that?
I think it's tough. I feel for Steph. I don't think that this is the best team they could have put around him, but at least they did do something at the trade deadline last year. And they were starting to gel a little bit, it felt like. Jimmy was averaging 25 and 5. Um, and now he goes down. And now it's like that's kind of what I was going to say earlier about this trade deadline is this is kind of a make or break for Steph's contention, in these next year or two. If they're able to somehow make some type of trade, they have Kaminga, they have a lot of picks, they have young pieces. I still think that something is possible, but I don't know if they're willing to do it. Um, and I did see something that I kind of feel like is what things are going to transition to of like we need to stop we're at the point now we probably need to stop watching Steph for accomplishments and just enjoy the career that he has left. You like enjoy watching him play because I don't think that unless they do something, which I don't know if they're going to be able to do something big at this trade deadline. They were already a fringe team this year, so they're definitely not going to be better without Jimmy Butler. And then this also now carries over into next year because he might not, if he does play next year, it's definitely going to be, way deeper into the year when he does come back. So yeah, just I think the ramifications for this are kind of crazy. And again, just feel really bad for Steph. He's averaging like 27 or 28 still one of the greatest players in the league currently, the best shooter still. Um, so yeah, I don't know what this team is going to do moving forward, and I think these next 2 weeks or so before the trade deadline are going to be really big. If they don't do anything, I don't. It'll be interesting to see the level of play that we get out of Steph and the rest of the team for the rest of the year, or if they just kind of like sink out of playoff contention and let things happen. I'm not sure if they own their own draft pick this year,
Mm-hmm.
um, or if it's, any type of protection on it, if that's something maybe they're going to look towards, but it is just as catastrophic of an injury for a team as you could have outside of like your number one guy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I agree. And then didn't Kaminga come out like last week or a couple of days ago saying he like demands a trade and he ain't gonna be playing with them, just gonna be sitting out.
Yeah, well, he didn't say he was going to sit out, but he demanded a trade because he's already been out of the rotation. That's the thing. But then they did just say that with Jimmy Butler out, that he probably will get back into the rotation. But
Okay.
um, I mean, we've seen plenty of times guys demand a trade and they don't get traded, especially when they're not a star and he's nowhere near a star. So I could see them also being like, so anyway, if you want to get out there, and he's on a 1 year deal with the team option for next year. So maybe they do keep him, but I think that's the main trade chip that you have. I think right now they still have a little time before the trade deadline, so I would play him so that he can have some type of value,
Mm,
maybe
yeah.
drive that up a little bit, and then hopefully parlay that into something to at least have a reasonable rest of the season.
Speaking of value, they're currently playing the Toronto Raptors at home,
Getting
and they're
blown out.
down 20 points. And Kaminga did come off the bench, but Steve Kerr only played on 5 minutes, and he only got one shot up. Uh, so that's going to be interesting to kind of like look at as well too. On it, like you said, if he does play, and then if they can't build his value up to get traded, but yeah, it's another flawed team, bro. This isn't a team truly built for Steph, especially with the success they've had, since he reached his prime. So, like you said, I agree with you. It's just one of those things where it's like, he's going to kind of be a for lifer unless Golden State truly wants to kind of use him to kind of bring in that next generation and get good draft picks. But like you said, I agree with it. Appreciate the time he has left. You know what I'm saying? So, shout out to Steph. Golden State's always tried, so there's nothing that would make me think that they're not going to try again. And they said they're willing to also trade Jimmy Butler's contract. I don't know who's going to take it, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. You know me. Sometimes I don't give a fuck about loyalty. I'm like, yo, get me out this bitch. Let me go play with KD. Some shit.
Yeah.
It feels possible, but I think he's gonna retire here for sure. Last topic: All Star starters got revealed. So essentially 10 players were selected from the east and from the west, and obviously as far as like the weighted scale, it's 50% fans, 25% players, and 25% media. From the Eastern Conference, we got Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jalen Brown, Jalen Brunson, your boy K Cunningham, and Tyrese Maxey. And then from the Western Conference, we got your boy Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, SGA, Jokic, and that alien Wemby. What are your thoughts on the starting five? You think they got it right?
I think that I feel bad for Ant because I feel like snubbed is such an interesting word, and I don't necessarily want to use it here, but I think that he has the best case out of anyone to have made the starting five of the Western Conference.
Yeah,
But Steph is Steph, bro. Like I don't,
especially when 50% of the vote is for
is
fans.
the fans exactly like there's you're not replacing. He's still the number one selling jersey right now in out of all the players in the league.
That's
He's the
OD.
most exciting player. I don't care about these guys who dunk, all this other stuff. Steph is still probably the most exciting player in the league. You're not, and he's still averaging 20 some points a game. Like so it's I can't say that he didn't deserve to make that. And then Luka is Luka averaging 30 something. Jokic is having definitely a better season than Ant, so that's a wash. Wimby is Wimby. And who's the last guy?
Yeah, we named it Steph, Luca, Shea. Oh,
Oh,
Shea.
Shea. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
it's one of those like the West is just so deep. There was gonna be somebody who was like, "Damn, you should have made it." If you were in the East, you definitely would have made it. But yeah, so I mean, one of those things. At the end of the day, on your Wikipedia page, on your ESPN, wherever people are looking at your accolades, it just says all-star. It doesn't say starter. There's no one even tracks that outside of people who are actually watching it that year.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's going to be an all-star. That's it regardless. It's kind of like just an ego boost thing, I feel like for these
Ouch,
guys
yo.
anyway.
You taking the
Exactly.
words right out of
So
my mouth, dog.
so I'm not really too worried about it. It is what it is. The West is just so deep, so that somebody was going to get left off. But otherwise, I think they did a pretty good job with these spots. My boy Cade getting the recognition that he deserves. I love it. And I'm interested now to see what the reserves are going to be, especially with this whole USA versus world thing they're trying to do. I don't know how it's
Oh,
going to affect
whack.
things. Um, but I will say it was interesting. I was looking at the voting returns the last couple weeks as they were publishing them,
Yeah.
and I could tell like 2, 3 weeks ago, I could tell LeBron was not about to be a starter.
Oh, all right.
And
Yeah.
as it came closer, I'm like, oh yeah, this is even more apparent. And it's just crazy to, you know, we've been watching basketball for so long. Like that was a lock. Like he was especially when they were doing the little draft or whatever, every year he was a captain, like literally every year.
Yeah.
So to see that pendulum shift of like, and this is fan voting. I'm not even, this isn't even necessarily the players and the media in the fan voting. He was very far down. So to see
Mm,
that pendulum shift of like this next generation is really watching basketball now, and he's not their favorite player. He's like
mm,
he's an old guy,
yeah.
Um,
Because
and
I was gonna ask you, I was like, you think it's because of like the amount of games he played, available games, but then like Wemby missed a good amount of time as well too.
if this
Uh,
was any other year, like I think it's just where he's at in his career. I think like if we were to say 2 years ago, LeBron could have not played a game. He still would have been voted to the All-Star team. Like
mm,
that's just like the level of popularity that he had. So I don't think it has anything to do with the missed games because again, like Yoke hasn't played in what a month or something like that. Wemby's missed a bunch of games. It really don't matter when it comes to the all-star starters. When they pick the reserves, that's usually when the coaches get to do that, so they start factoring in games and stuff like that. But there's no, all those rules and stuff like that for the end of year awards. It has no bearing on these all-star starters. So, I mean, Denny Avita had, which granted, foreign guys sometimes that can happen because their whole country will get behind them and stuff like that. But it was crazy to see Denny had more fan votes than LeBron, and I think that's just like just where we're at. Like a lot of this old guard is going out, um, and this the young guys' time.
Young guys' time. So we may not see a competitive game, but if I had to put my 2 cents in, I think Team World or whatever the structure is gonna win because my boy Victor Wembanyama said, "I want to push the great players of this sport to play in the All Star game just as hard as I will. We'll see how it goes, but if they don't play hard, I'll do it without them." I love that mindset. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, he probably gonna be MVP. He sold me on that already as well too. And obviously Joker's probably not gonna be able to play. So, Ant-Man probably most likely will get that other spot as well too. But then, like you said, does it really matter? Because like you said, they're gonna mix up the teams anyway. So whatever. But hopefully they're competitive. I know I'll probably at least try to tune in for the first 3 to 4 or 5 minutes. They definitely can't do what they did last time with Kevin Hart and all this extra shit. Like I'm just trying to see the game. I don't give a fuck about all this extra shit. So only thing I really care about is the 3 point contest at this point. But yeah, should be an interesting All Star game, and I think if this one isn't as good as last year, the year before, granted they're all ass to me, then I think we need to definitely go away and find some restructuring or something. Something has to change. You know what I'm saying? But any closing remarks?
I mean, this format is ass, so they need to restructure it again. But after that, they need to stop. They just need to stop. They just need to let it like tell them to go out and play. If they don't play, then it is what it is. But like what you're doing right now is like you're just dancing around the problem. Like you're fixing everything, but and acting like it's not just if they just played hard, you wouldn't have to do all this extra crap. So
Yeah.
that's
And they be complaining like, oh, we took a couple days off and we gotta do all this and this and that with the community and this, that, so it takes away from our rhythm. Like, nigga, at the end of the day, y'all getting paid to do this shit. They just and y'all not even gonna play the whole game. There's 12 people, well, probably now 8 people on each team. So it's just like, why not give the
yeah.
fans what they want to see? Why don't you have an ego to represent not only yourself but your team, your fan base? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know, man. But on that note, any closing remarks for the episode?
Hope everybody enjoyed MLK Day yesterday and reflected on, what he did for this country. And I hope you hugged a black person yesterday. And yeah, hope everybody has a good week.
Hope everyone has a good week. Ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 170 of the Season Show. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Season Show at Carl Conyers at Sir Caesars. We out.